Hey, what is going on, guys? And welcome to a very different episode of the College Info Geek podcast. I'm going to be honest. I'm sitting here with my friend Sara Dietschy. I've been watching your stuff on YouTube for a couple of years now, ever since you put out your Casey Neistat video. And I've been a fan ever since. And I knew you had a podcast, and I was coming to New York, so I was like, why not resurrect the interview format of the podcast? Yes. But we're doing it a little bit differently. This is actually part 2 of a 2-part conversation because we were figuring what's the best way to get people to listen to both podcast episodes on both podcasts. Clearly just make it a cliffhanger.
Exactly.
So
dun, dun, dun.
We're going to talk about how Sara became part of the Adobe Residence program, how she dropped out of college actually, and how you became a full-time YouTuber, how you actually make money, all kinds of stuff. We're also going to talk about my cold email to her and how that ended up working out pretty well. But if you have not watched or listened to part 1 of this interview yet, it's over on The Creative Exchange, your podcast. So there's going to be a link in the show notes for this episode, or you can just go over to cigpodcast.com/Sara. That is S-A-R-A. No H. Hold the H. Listen to that because we're literally just going to cut it at the halfway mark, I think. And then we're just going to cut from here with a nice little fade and go straight into wherever that picked up. So you're not going to know what we were talking about, whatever it was, unless you go listen to part 1 first. So do that and then enjoy this episode. For the benefit of my podcast, since we have lots of students, I want to get a little more of your story. So I know you dropped out. What I'm actually curious about is how you got involved in the Adobe Residence program and what that was, and then how you kind of used your experience there to build a solo career.
So the Adobe Creative Residency is a year where you can just pursue your passion projects. So it's important that you use the Adobe products because that's kind of the reason why they started it.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing program. So I got in at year 2. So it's a fairly new program. So they have filmmakers.
And they're still doing it?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So they have filmmakers, designers, photographers, anything that has to do with the Adobe Creative Suite. So Premiere, Photoshop, Lightroom. They have so many creative tools that can, that you can create with that it is very easy to really incorporate that into your workflow. And so I switched over to Premiere the moment Final Cut 7 died with Final Cut 10. Why, Apple? Why did you do that? So I switched to Premiere and I loved it, got into the ecosystem, used Photoshop, Lightroom, and I discovered the Adobe Creative Residency when I went to the Adobe Max conference in LA the year of 2015.
Okay.
So
I've been there.
Yeah, it's so fun, right?
Yeah.
When I was in college and I was hating life doing computer science and electrical engineering, I kind of made a vow to myself that if this isn't what I'm going to do, then you better bust your butt figuring out what you want to do in life, So whenever I wasn't in school, I was going to conferences on the weekend. And Adobe Max has a college price. So the ticket was only $300. I knew I had friends in LA that I could stay with. And I knew they always gave away a big piece of tech. So the year before they gave out Microsoft Surface Pros. The year I went, they gave out a Fujifilm XTI camera. So I knew that I could just go and flip that on eBay and pay for my plane ticket and my conference ticket.
Wait, you were guaranteed to get it?
You weren't guaranteed. So they'll probably hate me for saying this because I'm pretty sure last year they didn't have anything.
Okay.
But usually they try to partner with a company to get a huge amount of product for super cheap because hey, it's being put in the hands of the most creative people ever. Right. Why wouldn't you want that? Yeah. So the year I went, I lucked out and they gave away a $1,000 camera. So I flipped it on eBay and I paid for my ticket and I paid for my plane ticket.
Any Adobe reps listening to this, just respect the hustle.
Yeah, man, it's the hustle, right? And so I was very scrappy like that during college, where I was like, if there was a conference, if there is any opportunity to figure out what I want to do with my creative life, I'm going to go there. So October 2015, I think, was when the conference was. And the first session that I went to was for Becky Simpson. She's an amazing... Oh, I know her. Yeah, do you know her?
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with her.
I met her in 2012 when I went to Austin.
Small world.
I know, right?
Small world.
Yeah.
She's so fun.
She actually went to Iowa State.
Oh my God. Yep. Shout out to Becky. So I went to her session because like I know about video editing. So I was like, let's learn about book publishing. I want to make a coffee table book one day. So that's how I found myself in her session. And the first 5 minutes, she was talking about how she was a new Adobe Creative resident. And it was the first year of this new program, and it's so exciting. She gets to pursue her passion projects and publish this new book, and Adobe's supporting her financially. You get a 1-year annual salary. So it's basically like you're working for Adobe with an Adobe salary, but hey, you get to choose what you do. Amazing,
That's
right?
awesome. Yeah.
So when she was talking about that in her session, my jaw just like dropped. I was like, what? So in my brain, I was like, this is my ticket out of college. Like, this is going to help establish me as a content creator, a video maker, a YouTuber. And
so you knew before going into the residency that that's what you wanted to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that
well,
what
I
helped
kind
you
of
get
figured
over
it out during that time.
Okay.
I was really pushing myself on YouTube. So at this time in college, I was posting at least 1 video a week. And that was a lot for someone who was up till midnight, 1 a.m. doing computer science homework.
Yeah.
And so
were these vlogs back then, or were they?
Unboxings, travel. I was doing my docuseries Creative Spaces TV. That was taking the most time. And so during that time, I was like, okay, YouTube, this can be a thing. Like, I got 3,000 subscribers. Watch out, world. Here Sarah comes. In hindsight, I was crazy. But so she had just gotten the residency. She was only 3 months into it. But in my brain, I was like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this next year. This is how I say goodbye to college. So very shortly after that conference, I straight up dropped out of college, even though applications didn't open up for another like 7 months.
Really? So you just dropped out and didn't have anything to do?
Yeah. But at the same time, I was like working with a local production company in Nashville to be the video person, to go do boring corporate edits and filming. So, there was slow streams of like $300 here, $500 here of like, I can pay my cheap Nashville rent with it. So I knew that I could survive with my PB&J diet and my production company thing, being the video person. I could survive like that for a couple years if I had to.
Yeah.
But kind of fate just happened because during that time of dropping out and preparing to apply for the residency, I was just making so much stuff, and I was doing anything that I possibly could. And at the conference, I shook the hands. I said hi to Becky. She introduced me to a community manager at Adobe. I later was shooting a recap video for Adobe at a conference. Okay. And so I kind of like weaseled my way in. Yeah. And something about Adobe is like, the people that work there actually enjoy working there. So it's a really cool environment, and the people who are involved are just the coolest people ever.
It's the vibe I got too.
Yeah,
I got to tour their office one year.
I love them dearly. Smart job making me a resident, because I'm like a what do they call it?
Now you're an ambassador.
Yes,
pretty much.
I will be an Adobe ambassader for life.
Do you know the tough thing you said, like, I hate Facebook earlier? I went to their offices yesterday, and they were so cool, and I now feel like I'm gonna be the same. Really? Their production team, they were so nerdy about the gear and everything. Yeah. They were so nice. And I was just like, I can't be mad. Exactly.
So yeah, that was kind of how that started. So when I applied, they knew who I was. They were familiar. And it was so funny because right before applications opened, and let me back up a little bit. So I was doing this Creative Spaces TV docuseries, and I was documenting the creative process. And so I went up to Becky after her session. I was like, I would love to do an episode with you. Let's do it. Yeah. So I became friends with her too. So as the residency rolled around, the second year application, she texted me maybe a couple weeks before, and she was like, hey, Sarah, I don't know if you were thinking about it, but you should definitely apply for the residency. I would love to put a word in. And like low key, I was planning for like 7 months. I was like, oh my God, yeah, Becky.
Like, I could think about that.
I could think about that. And so when the applications opened, I was like, bam, bam, bam. This is what I've been been doing on YouTube for the past year. This is what I want to do for the next year. And to them, it was a very like attractive case because I had about 3,000 subscribers. I was doing it for a while, and a lot of what I was doing was dependent on sharing the process. So yes, I would create and make this piece of art, but then I showed the behind the scenes. So that was really exciting for them because that's where they thrive, in the behind the scenes. How did I do this? Adobe Premiere hacks. Oh, cool. And so they accepted me, but basically on the trip to San Francisco when I was doing the final interviews for it, because I had the consistency, and when I dropped out, I was like 2 videos every single week. Yeah. And I had this thing where I would post one for me and like one with the intention of reaching beyond my audience. And so that video that happened to be with the intention of reaching outside my audience was the Casey Neistat video.
So that was made with intent.
Exactly.
Okay. I get the feeling that like a lot of viral videos, like there's something behind it.
Exactly. And that's why at the end of the video, I was like, tweet Casey this video with the hashtag this, whatever the hashtag was. And so that video went viral. I was in the final interviews, and it was so funny because so many people think that that's the reason why I got the residency, but it was almost the reason why I didn't get it.
Really?
I remember one of the people who was interviewing me kind of like walked in and was kind of like making fun of not making fun of, but making light of the video, and was kind of like making fun of Casey, and talked about that and asked me if I even wanted the residency. Basically was like, hey, you have this huge audience now. Do you really need Adobe? And I was like, oh my God, yes. I don't know how to make money off of this thing. Are you kidding me? And
I'll delete it if I have to.
Yes. I'm like, yes, I still need it. And so that enabled me to have an entire year to just focus on creating. That was my only task, was to create and share the process and build my YouTube channel. And that's now the basis of what I do for a job.
It's kind of like your home base in terms of your business. Yes. It seems that way.
Yes.
Did they have like a posting schedule? Like you had to make one thing a week, or what was it?
No. So basically with the residency, you develop a project, and that's what you work towards. And that project was basically doing a final season of Creative Spaces TV, which is my docuseries that goes into a creator studio, shows how you do what you do and where you do it.
Do they have like did you have to like post once a week or something like that?
The thing about the residency was you have your project and that was it. So anything that helps you create your project, that's your priority. Okay. So of course I had certain standards I wanted to post. During that time I was daily vlogging, which killed me.
Well, you were daily vlogging
and posting and doing and working towards a final
Creative
season.
Spaces thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that was brutal. But I think I needed that time to really figure out that I wasn't a daily vlogger.
Okay.
Of course, I figured that out on Adobe's dime, which was great. But I also had, a season of Creative Space TV. It was really good. It was I was proud of it.
I remember watching some of those, and I was like, I wish Sarah would come film my room.
I could come film. Sounds like you have a cool operation.
I do have a pretty cool space.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to bring it back. That would be fun.
If it does ever come back.
Yeah. So I was proud of it, but I also wanted to try out daily vlogging, and it killed me. So I figured out that wasn't for me during that time, which was really good. But having that pressure, even though they weren't down my neck saying, oh, you have to post this, blah, 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 having that pressure though really helped me to just go full throttle with everything. Yeah. And because I was like, okay, I want to come out of this year with the ability to show that, oh my gosh, I did this, and this, isn't that cool? But at the same time, you're also traveling a lot. So you're doing speaking engagements. So when you start traveling, that's when that really, it gets harder, right? Yeah. To do the editing that you need to do the just like logistics that it takes to do content creation.
I've got a video that's supposed to come out today.
There you go.
I'm traveling, so it's not.
Exactly. So that was one of the biggest hurdles, was kind of juggling all those things. But I had the perspective of, this is, I'm never going to get an opportunity like this ever again. So if I don't need to sleep, that's okay. It's only a year. But yeah, it really helped me set up me as a creator, as a business, to where I can do it full time now today.
I love how, and I want to get into how it became full-time, but I love how you talked about how you sort of like, quote unquote, weaseled your way into maybe having a better chance at getting into the residency program. I think a lot of students don't consider that. They don't consider what maybe building a relationship could do before something like that comes up. I got a scholarship in college, and I'm 100% sure the reason that I was picked for that scholarship is that I had spent time building relationships with some of the people who just ended up being on the committee. And
relationships are huge.
I think I had a good application, but when they were picking out those applications, they were like, oh, this is that guy who's been to every career fair and who came to our networking sessions at the company and who spent time talking to us and asking questions about our internship program. It's not just a random person. Have you ever heard about like the term the short stack? So like in hiring or recruiting circles, there's the idea of like the big stack, which is just all the resumes that came from monster.com or that were dropped in the mailbox. And then the short stack is everybody who was recommended by someone who already works there or just somebody who just comes to mind in the recruiting manager's head for one reason or the other. You're the person who got introduced by somebody who's already in the program. So whether it's like fair or not, you come to mind and they're gonna want to accept you.
And there's always, and that's the thing, some people have that mindset of, oh, like that, I don't have to put in that extra work. Everyone's doing this, but there's always someone doing the extra mile.
Yep.
And if you're not doing it, that means someone else is doing it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of with that, and just with everything in life, I have always benefited so much for just like going that extra mile and also having the mindset. And I'm like a big believer in speaking things into motion. So I'm someone that like from the moment I heard about that residency, I was like, I am getting that. This is how I'm going to get it. I put specific things on paper.
You put in work that other people aren't going to put in. And I think that's really important. I had a lot of friends in college who were just like, why can't I just fill out the application on Monster and just put it in there?
Do you want an average life? Well, that's what you do.
Yeah, do the average thing, you know? And like what you said, there's someone who's going to go the extra mile, so it might as well be you. And I have a lot of friends who are just like, well, what if I do that and I put in all this effort and they don't pick me? That's likely to happen. It's like still unlikely that you're going to be 1 out of 300, but it gets more and more likely the more and more work you put in. So why not?
Exactly. Why not? Those are kind of, you know, it's just something that I live by. And it's weird to also, like the YouTube world and the world we're in, no matter who we're sponsoring with or whatever, we still have a really good amount of control with our content. And that's why I love YouTube. And that's why I love being, you know, like an independent content creator. But once you get into the world, whether it's like Hollywood or just the traditional world of entertainment, it shifts so much. Like I went to a proper audition recently.
Oh yeah. For a movie or for
like a hosting of a TV show.
Oh, okay.
Which I love hosting. I love interviewing people. I love telling a story through kind of like docu-series stuff. But this would be more for like a show type thing. And I went through the whole audition process. I basically wore exactly what all these other models were wearing, you know? Like my shtick was definitely the, personality, knows how, like could maybe fulfill more of a role of producer and also like be a friendly host. I wasn't like the bombshell beauty that everyone else was. But it was a very interesting experience because they don't care about your time. They don't care that you're one of 1,000 people. And it's like, we moved the time of the audition. Oh, audition here. And we have callbacks here, but you need to wear this, this, and that. And remember these lines. And bring us a book of photos and blah, 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 blah. And like, you didn't get it. Oh, hey, guess what? There's callbacks again. And it's just like, it's such a mess. And you're like so not in control of those circumstances. And so like, that was such a good moment of just like thankfulness of what I get to do every day. And because there's so many things, and whether it's like a 9 to 5, you know, you're at the mercy of your boss or at the hiring process. If you can make this independent content creator like an actual job, it's so cool because yes, You might have like long hours because you love what you're doing, but you're fully in control of your life. You're fully in control of your creativity. And like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. The fact that you can make a living doing 100% what you want to do. I mean, obviously there are considerations for your audience and the platform, but there's nobody else telling you need to do this. You know,
and you're
you need
completely
to go
in
wear a
control.
different shirt. So that's great. Let's talk about that. How have you made it a full-time career for yourself?
I think it started with the journey from 2012 to 2016. And that was the journey of 0 subscribers to 3,000 subscribers, which I think is sometimes a more interesting story than 3,000 to 100,000, because that was really the time when I was just posting videos because I love to post videos. So I think my always unfair advantage is that I love editing first. I think I'm a storyteller in the edit, and I know how to tell stories. It's not that I love quilting and I have to come up with like cool video content around quilting. I love telling stories through video. So that was something that when I saw YouTube, I was like, oh, this actually plays into my favor. Like, I love making videos for video's sake, and I have all these different passions. And so that started with traveling. I really enjoyed traveling in high school and college, and I was going to like Greece and Iceland, and basically every penny that I earned from babysitting or guitar lessons or anything like that, I stayed at home with my parents for college. Okay. So every single penny I earned went back into travel.
So you were like hustling.
Yeah.
Early on, guitar lessons, all the babysitting. Okay.
I was like basketball refereeing when I was in 6th grade, I was refereeing 6th grade girls basketball. And it started as something that was just like fun and, oh, this could be a job one day, because they couldn't pay me. I was like, what, 12?
Yeah.
Like, you can't pay a 12-year-old. You can't put a 12-year-old on a payroll. But it started as a thing like, oh, I really like this job one day, so I'm going to like do it until you can pay me. So I started basketball refereeing, and I was always babysitting. Like, babysitting?
It's good money.
It's really good money, and I love kids. And once that was a thing, and I had like 3 babysitting gigs a weekend, I was like rolling, you know. And that's, you know, I grew up in very like middle America, you know, why am I don't know the word for low,
like middle
class, yeah. Very classic, just in the burbs, middle class. My dad had a job, my mom stayed at home. And, you know, one of the biggest blessings growing up was like, I never had to worry about a roof over my head or food on the table. And that's something that I'm so grateful for what my parents gave me, because when it came to, oh, I want a new guitar to play guitar, or, oh, I want that camera, you know, my parents would always be like, sick, guess what? You have time, you go work. Yep. And you can go like earn that. That's exciting. Yeah.
And it's so valuable.
Yeah. And that was probably one of those valuable things that I learned from them was, like, one, I had the time to go do that because, you know, I wasn't worried about working just to like eat. But 2, it was like, oh yeah. They associated working with getting something. And that's something that I learned very early on. So, you know, babysitting was probably my first job. And then I was always doing that. That was the underlying theme. Babysitting, basketball and soccer refereeing. I was a hostess at Original Pancake House, but that was my only clock in, clock out job. Most of my jobs were, what do I like to do, and like who's going to pay me to do them. So
like pseudo entrepreneurship.
Exactly. Yep. So I loved kids, so I was like big on that. Guitar lessons. Once I became a certain like, you know, I was good at guitar. I was like, oh, okay, people want lessons. So I gave guitar lessons and stuff like that. And that's how I really like funded all of my guitar gear, because I was very into guitar. And it's funny because I invested in all this guitar gear in high school, that's what allowed me to flip that for camera gear. So nice. I realized that I wasn't going to go on tour and be Taylor Swift's guitar player. So I was like, okay, well, I have like $5,000 worth of guitar equipment. Yeah. Let's sell that and buy some video equipment. So that's really what led me to that like having the proper tools to do that. And so, you know, from 0 to 3,000 subscribers, I was just making anything, everything, and sharing the process along the way. You know, oh, I got a new Canon 70D, guys. Let's unbox this thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got my first camera through flipping stuff.
Yeah.
GameStop games.
Yo, I used to live at GameStop.
Yep.
Do you remember EB Games?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I remember EB Games.
Yeah. One of those opened up like really close to our local GameStop. And I remember just being like so judgmental because I'm like, this is like the same thing. I was like so loyal to GameStop.
Yeah.
I was like, get out of here, EB Games.
Are they owned by the same company or I don't know?
Are they?
I feel like I read an article recently that was saying like GameStops and EB Games were closing stores, and I don't know if that meant like they're both getting hit or if they are owned by the same company.
Honestly,
now.
they're probably both getting hit because
I know Barnes and Noble and GameStop were like merged for a while, and then I think they demerged a while back or something like that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, I don't know, a block from my house pretty much, there is a combination Starbucks, Barnes and Noble, GameStop. And I bet
you don't need anything else.
You could live there.
That's all you need.
You could actually live there and entertain yourself and learn stuff and survive on food.
I was a very big coffee and coffee cakes. That's all you need. I was a very big Halo player.
Oh yeah.
But that was the extent of my video gaming because my dad used to work for Microsoft. So
he got you the Xbox 5 and you could play like Halo 17 early, right?
Yeah. But I was sometimes I felt like the cool hip drug dealer at my school. I didn't deal drugs, but I dealt games. So basically when a new Halo came out, like I was the chick that you went and saw because my dad could get you Halo for not $60, but $25.
Oh.
So I was like, what Halo game do you want? If I was smart, I would charge them $35 and pocket the 10. But I wasn't Gary V mindset back then.
You weren't like, I'm selling baseball cards at prom instead of having a date.
Hashtag entrepreneur life.
What do you think about his content strategy?
Yeah.
Because every time I listen to him, I feel like, oh, I'm like failing as a business owner because I didn't post 18 times on Instagram today and I'm not running like $5 million worth of Facebook ads.
I think people need to remember that he has a team of like 15 people.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I mean, I owe so much of like my know-how of, I feel like, business and just social media in general, like to his stuff. There was a solid year of I was just like watching, learning. And then honestly, when I stopped watching for a solid year and I was just doing, that's when I think it helped me the most because I kind of internalized the things that I needed to hear and went out and did them. I think content like him is not good when all you're doing is listening because then you get the FOMO. You get that feeling of, oh, I could do so much more and oh my God, look at all the things he's doing. But then when you never back it up with action, you just get the feeling of you're a terrible person. You're a terrible social media person because you're not doing all the things he's doing. So yeah, I think with his content, you have to take it with a grain of salt and you almost have to pick and choose what's for you. Because I think it can take something 6 months to just actually internalize. So I think his method of repetition, it's totally valid because sometimes it does take that long to really process something. But at the same time, I think it gets weird when actual filmmakers, content creators, artists take his stuff too literally because the biggest thing that he says is document versus create.
Right, which I don't know if I agree with that.
No, because I'm an entrepreneur, but like you're not going to find entrepreneur in my Instagram bio. Like I am a filmmaker, super pretentious.
What does yours say?
I don't know. I don't actually know what it says. Oh no, put me on the spot. But like,
it's going to say like piano.
It probably says YouTuber actually.
Mine says entrepreneur.
Okay.
Which that's what I think of myself as because I do too many things to think of myself as a YouTuber.
Right.
All right, let's see what yours is.
Oh no. Because for me, I'm video first. You know? Like I take pride. What is it?
You're a public figure.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
That one. Yeah. I think it's general enough.
Yeah. And then you have YouTuber and podcaster.
I honestly, entrepreneur might make more sense for that little gray area. I was
That's
meaning,
what I have. For your little,
I was
what you
meaning
actually
for the,
typed.
like the bio and stuff.
Okay. For bio, I did put study and productivity YouTuber.
Yeah.
I did put that.
Yeah. Cause it's like, I do videos first.
Right.
I would consider myself a filmmaker before an entrepreneur. And I am an artist. Like, I take pride in telling a compelling story, whether it's with my life or someone else's creative process. And I think it's kind of dangerous to start thinking about actual art as that philosophy of his philosophy, like document versus create. Because I think what artists have to do is, like, you have to synthesize everything that you're feeling, what's going on in the world, what do you want to put out in the world, and create from that.
Yeah.
And it's not just sticking a camera in someone's face and just following them around for the day. That's his thing, and it works, and it's beneficial. I love his stuff. Like, it's beneficial to me, but only in the sense of, like, I think business and some of these things. So,
and what he says, I mean, he's very open about this, is he has like a shtick. Like, he's very in your face, he's very high energy, and he has a lot of knowledge from his actual business dealings that comes to the table. And I love listening to just like them having a microphone in a business meeting and him talking with a rapper about distribution. I love that. But I wouldn't want to go to Infinity War and watch 15 hours of behind the scenes instead of watching the movie.
Exactly.
I want to watch the ridiculously polished movie that took so long to orchestrate, took a decade to plan. Like, that's amazing. So I get very motivated by Gary as well, but one thing I'll have to do is I will go and I will look at other successful creators that aren't doing that same thing, just to remind myself, okay, you can post once every other day and still, not have your business crash and burn.
Exactly.
And sure, maybe you're missing out. I think like that's the biggest thing, is whether he likes it or not, he's creating a lot of FOMO by saying we're all not doing enough. We're all not buying enough ads. We're all not posting enough. And like he's probably technically right, but
he can say that because he knows that only 1% of the people listening are actually going to go and act on it. But I think as a consumer of his content, you just have to be aware of what is for you. And you can get something from his self-aware spiel, but then realize that, you posting on all platforms every single day, maybe that's not for you because it's not in your capacity, so don't feel bad about it.
Yep, I don't have 15 people. And I'm also like, you're telling stories that take a long time to weave. I'm talking about things that take time to responsibly research. He can say, make content every day, but I mean, he's kind of saying the same thing every day too, which that is helpful in one dimension, but I shouldn't do the same thing. I should be researching and doing all kinds of stuff.
Exactly.
This week, we have a brand new sponsor on our show. Setapp is an awesome way to try out over 120 different Mac apps for one low monthly price. Now, if you are a Mac user like I am, you know that the Mac App Store has a ton of different high-quality, well-coded, well-designed apps out there. Macs are kind of known for having a lot of really nicely designed apps, but along with that great design, along with that code quality and support, comes often a pretty hefty price tag. And with a lot of these apps, there's not a good way to try them out before you buy. So if you want to try out lots of apps like I do, then you can easily start burning through the money in your wallet at an alarming rate. But now there is a service called Setapp that solves that problem for you, because for one low monthly price, $10 a month, you can get unlimited access to these apps, as many of them as you want to use. You can download them onto your computer and use them at your leisure. And what's best, you don't have any ads, you don't have any in-app purchases, you don't have any upgrades. Every app within Setapp's catalog is upgraded and updated automatically, so you can just get in and do your thing without having to worry about it at all. Now, as I said, there are over 120 different apps in their collection at this time, but I did want to give you a little bit of a taste of what you're going to find in that collection. So a few of the apps that I have used personally in the past include Flume, which is actually a Instagram client that works on your Mac, and I actually use this to answer Instagram DMs from you guys when you send me questions. I can type a lot faster on my Mac than on my iPhone keyboard, so that is a great app. Mosaic is a really cool app for window management, so if you are doing research or coding and you want to arrange your windows next to each other really nicely in an organized fashion and quickly. That can let you create these really cool custom profiles to do that with just a touch of a button or a short key. Unibox is an email app that CGP Grey, the host of the Hello Internet and Cortex podcasts, of which I am a huge fan, has used and really likes. And then I've talked about in the past an app called Focus, which can actually block distracting websites and applications. So with Setapp, you get access to all of these apps along with all the other ones in their category. Like I said, over 120, ranging from productivity apps to photography apps to software development tools, all sorts of great stuff. Over 700,000 people have already tried Setapp, and you should make yourself the 700,001st. I think I said that right. You can get a 7-day free trial by going over to, and pay attention to this URL because it's not easy to say, but it's easy to spell, stpp.co/CIG. That is stpp.co/CIG. And because this is a student-focused show, if you happen to have a .edu email address, you can actually get special student pricing. They have a 50% off deal for students. So when you sign up, if you sign up with that .edu email address, they're going to automatically apply that discount to your account. So once again, that is stpp.co/CIG to give Setapp a try today and try over 120 different Mac apps for all of you Mac lovers out there. And I want to give a big thanks to Setapp for sponsoring this episode and being a supporter of our show. Let's get back into it. Do you have a favorite quote?
Oh my gosh. Oh, yes.
Okay. I do have one that's relevant to this, which is why I ask.
Say it. You say it.
Mine is... adapt what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. Bruce Lee said that. And I think about it anytime that I listen to or watch content or read content from people that are trying to basically get me to change my life in some way or sharing their life experience. So Gary is no exception.
Yeah, that's
Adapting
good.
what is useful. I love his emphasis on empathy and being nice to people, not building a business through ruthless practices. I love that. I love the hustle.
Huge.
But I'm also like, sleep is good.
Exactly. And that's something that I found recently too with me is I had, like, I'm only 23, but I've had a really big period in my life of the hustle and grind and no sleep. So when I was in high school and I was in all AP classes and I was babysitting and I was playing basketball and I was playing guitar every weekend at my church and I was also playing guitar in my other band, like I wasn't sleeping. When I was in college and I was doing computer science homework, but I was also trying to be a YouTuber, I wasn't sleeping. Adobe Creative Residency, I wasn't sleeping. So like there is a big period of my life of the hustle and grind. Sorry.
Let's just let it go. Okay, like actually, I was thinking about this, and I could see you getting a little distracted, and then I'm like, wait a minute. I listened to Gary podcast where he's like at a conference, and people are just like having a loud party behind him, and I still listen to it.
That's true. By the way, if you hear like foot traffic, it's a Friday at 5 p.m. and that's why we're in my office. But
maybe the next person's building their dream office.
That might be the thing.
And when you're building your dream office, there's going to be another podcaster. Yeah.
Man, so I'm sorry for whoever's going to podcast tonight, because that's me tonight. But no, so there was a time in my life or a big time in my life, probably like 8 years of my life where it was a hustle and grind and there was no sleep, which is like so not healthy, right? Yep. But I believe that life comes in phases. And if you have to only sleep 5 hours for maybe 5 years of your life to achieve your dream, freaking do it and do what you have to get there, but then be conscious that like you also need to take care of your person. So set yourself up to where you can live a healthy life, And so now that I feel like I'm a little bit established, I have put in certain routines and I have emphasized sleep. Like I get a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep almost every night, with the exception if I'm at, a conference or doing something, but that means I have that energy if I do need, So it's like, yes, life comes in waves. Like you have to acknowledge that sometimes periods are, crazier than other ones. But recently, I'm living a life where I don't have to sleep only 4 hours. So I've kind of made that a priority, and like I'm slowing down a little bit, not slowing down, like I'm always working, but sleeping, enjoying life, like enjoying that I have
regulating.
Another human to live life with. Like I love my boyfriend dearly, and one of our favorite things to do is just like watch The Office for an hour over dinner. That's really exciting to me, you know? And so taking
I love just
those
cooking
moments.
and then, you know, watching something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's great. And the last few weeks, I guess 2 weeks, have been pretty bad sleep-wise for me. I guess the one thing I'll say is, traveling just makes it so tough. I got like 4 hours of sleep coming from VidCon to here. So I will say that I agree, life comes in waves. But whatever your dream is, don't let yourself develop a chronic injury. So that's just like something from my own life experience and people I know, which is like whatever dream it is, it's not worth it because like that will limit the next dream. Right. And your health has to be priority number one.
Totally.
I guess
that's something that I learned after no sleeping. And now, like, honestly, sometimes there will be weeks where I will legitimately just sleep 9 hours a night for 7 days in a row. And I'll just be like, I think it's literally me catching up from college still.
Your body's like, you still have debt to pay off.
Yeah, exactly.
I will extract the full 8 hours for every one of those nights.
Exactly. So now it's almost like waking up to my alarm is now the problem.
Yeah. So how are you making YouTube a full-time thing now? What's your business model?
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough that I'm in the kind of technology creativity realm where I get to partner with companies that I truly believe in and they're companies that actually have budget, which is really nice. I think in my experience and my YouTuber friends and just hearing what other people have to say is that's not the case for a lot of industries. I'll just go to quilting again. Like if you're in the quilting industry and you love quilts, there's not a lot of money in that.
Not a lot of influencer marketing dollars in the quilt game.
Exactly. And I think so is the same for like my boyfriend, John. He's a pro skater. And traditionally the skate industry, like there's not a ton of money in it.
You know, it's funny when I was a teenager, because I'm also a skateboarder. I was like, pro skateboarding industry must have so much money. And
Tony
then I
Hawk
grew
does.
up. And I grew up and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
These companies are scrappy.
Exactly.
They have
super
nothing.
scrappy. If you're a pro skater, you're not like your check every month isn't thousands of dollars, you know? And so there's just specific industries that I think fluctuate with, you know, how much money. But basically, long story short, luckily I'm obsessed with technology and creativity, and there's a lot of companies right now that want to empower creativity, which is really cool. So I get to partner with really cool brands, whether it's like Adobe, Intel, Squarespace, you know, classic Squarespace. They sponsor everything. Sponsor my podcast, Squarespace. And so that's, I would say, like my main tier is just partnering with brands. And I think my audience is very aware that like that's kind of how I do things, and that these companies are empowering me to do what I love. And usually a lot of times they're providing experiences to me that I wouldn't have otherwise. I think that's like my favorite type of brand deal is, you know, when AT&T comes along, it's like, hey, we want you to do the red carpet at Vulture Festival. You get to interview Neil Patrick Harris. I'm like, oh my God, yes, like dream come true. And so that's the other side of it, is it really allows me opportunities that I really wouldn't have otherwise. So I think that's the main tier. But then, you know, with building your business, it's always important to diversify and stuff like that. So I think there's of course affiliate links and merch and stuff like that. But
you've been on that merch.
Yeah, I have a shirt for you. I have a That Creative Life shirt for you. Yes. But merch thing is more of like a cool way to, like, yes, you make a little bit of money off of it, but
I think it's a connection thing.
It's more of a connection thing. It's more like building into your brand, like more like connecting directly to your fans. Cause the deeper you go into merch and clothes, the more you'll understand that there really isn't a lot of money in it. There isn't. It's like very difficult. Like if you're not Jake or Logan Paul, you're not making a lot of money on merch.
In our Slack, there's like a joke about the Buy That merch song to the point where I recorded a soulful acoustic rendition of Buy That merch.
I need to hear that.
I'm not done with the whole thing yet, but I did like one verse of it.
That is amazing.
But yeah, it's like, I don't remember. I was working with one company. It was like, I think it was like $7. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I just have this compulsion to actually give up my margin on merch, because I keep wanting to make the prices lower. I'm like, can we just like give all of our merch profits to charity?
Exactly.
Or can we, and I really want to do this, and I think this is a great idea for anyone doing merch. I want to put just little surprises in with any order. So like you order a shirt, you're going to get like a post or two or something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just like delight your audience as much as possible with your merch.
Yeah, and I think it is that direct, because like the people who because I love YouTube. I'm a consumer of YouTube. Yeah. So the people that I like really, really support, that's always something that I feel like I can do that is that extra mile for the creator. Like, yeah, maybe they're not making a ton of money, but it's like, yo, I'm repping your merch. Like that's that, extra step. And I think that's why I favor also, like working with brands it's a way that it supports the channel and allows me to do what I'm doing, but it doesn't ask my audience like for out of pocket stuff. So it's like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do this thing in Premiere, or teach you how to be a filmmaker, whatever it is. And all you have to do is like, hey, listen to what this company has to say for a minute in my own words, because I actually use them and I'm an advocate for it, which is sick. So you're probably going to get some benefit from that too. But after I'm done talking about this for a minute, we get to like learn how to do this. So it's just a way that I feel like it's not a big cost to the audience.
I think it's great, yeah. And I don't know about yours, my ads are all at the end of the video. So at least for the first month,
that's
mine aren't that. There's no AdSense on the videos for the first month. So if you get it within the first 30 days, you're not even going to see an ad. You could watch my entire video and leave.
Interesting.
But cool. I try to make sure that my reads are compelling. And the companies aren't complaining.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's also to understand that every creator does it differently and maybe has to do it differently. And also as a consumer, if they're not wasting your time and if they're not really asking you as a viewer to go above and beyond that, if you just have to sit there for a few seconds, like that's a really cool way to support your favorite creator.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, I think whatever you can do to serve your audience and make things better for them and delight them and surprise them at every turn while still building your business and making a living for yourself, like take the opportunity. That's why I don't do Patreon for that reason. I have a Patreon that was like made 3 years ago, but I just I put a link on my Patreon page. It's just, here's a charity that I like, so
that's cool.
Give them money instead of me.
I think it's like, if it's the Patreon thing, I feel like it has to be an actual product that or something that you are getting every month. For some reason, I cannot do the whole like behind the scenes thing. It's like, hey, pay this much money and you get maybe like a minute extra of a clip that I posted, or like the whole, you get it a day before it, but I'm like, I can wait a day, you know? So I think there are a lot of people that actually do a really good job with Patreon, but those are the people that it's an actual like business model where people are stoked for that tier. And they're like, I'm actually getting a lot of value for this. So heck yeah, I'm going to pay $5 a month. So, or those, like, do you follow the Nerd Writer channel?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, his videos are so good, but they take so much work, right?
It's insane, yeah.
And so stuff like that, for the people that it takes almost like a month to edit a video together. And if you're such a, big fan of that and you support their work, then like, heck yeah, I'll, pay $2 a month, because it does take so much work. So
I think it's important to acknowledge that. Like, I think you and I are kind of both in this state of mind where we feel there should be like, if people are going to pay as in Patreon, there should be something they get. Yeah. But I think there's a position of privilege there in that you and I are both in industries in our content that lend themselves well to influence and that lend themselves well to actually making money through brand deals. So I don't want to say like, that model is invalid, because there are definitely people out there who use it, and that's what saves them. That's what enables them to make art for a living, and people are willing to do it.
Exactly. And like for some, like a practical example of how to use Patreon for someone who is in that, you know, direct position to where, okay, that whole influencer marketing thing isn't much of a thing, but one of my friends who is an artist and who digitally draws and stuff, so beautiful work, but she uses Patreon to release new Photoshop brushes every month. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
okay.
she's creating brand new original tools that she creates directly for her audience, where her audience then gets to take her tools and also create with them. So that's like a really cool example of how I think a lot of people in the traditional art scene too, or just digital art in general, illustration, graphic design, Patreon's a really good tool to offer other tools to people that you create, because that's like so much value, you know, and they're supporting
like
an artist.
Peter McKinnon does the LUTs that he sells, you know. I think that's really cool if you're an artist, like enable more artists, and that can actually be a good way to expand your business and make more money. Speaking of the whole like finding ways to get, I don't know if weasel your way in is the right term, but the first person I ever backed on Patreon, I did it because his $50 per month tier was an audio consultation. And I did think my audio could be improved on my videos. So that was part of the reason that I paid for it. But I was also like, that's a way to get on Skype one-to-one with one of my favorite creators. I'm going to just do it and see if like that goes anywhere. So I did it. And the first, like one of the first things we talked about on Skype is, I kind of have that tier as just like a way to find people who are serious.
Wow.
Like I'll help you with audio, but I just kind of use it as a way to meet people, as like a way to kind of triage. And I was like, interesting.
That's cool.
So I met a really cool YouTuber back when I had maybe 500 subscribers.
Wow.
And he had 100K. And then we just became friends.
Can you say his name?
Yeah, his name is Luke. He has a channel called Youngtown.
Okay, cool.
He's like one of those video game YouTubers.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, you never know. I think going back to what we were also saying about the importance of relationship building, these mystical YouTube creatures that you watch every week actually are real people. And there's so many things that, like, for me, Twitter is such a like, I'm always on it and I'm always checking my mentions, and if it's either like a nice compliment or you hit me at the right time with like a right hook of something, you know, it might not be the right timing, but if it is the right timing, then I find so many opportunities there and so many ways to connect with my fans that then become friends. And it's so like that chasm is not as big as you think. So
okay, I want to talk about one more thing before we wrap up. And this is going to be super behind the scenes, but I think it's going to be useful for people who want to make connections with people they look up to. I want to know what you thought of my email to you, because I didn't hit you up on Twitter. I think you like knew who I was.
Well, I knew who you were.
Okay.
So that's what made it an easier, because like when I saw your name, I was like, oh, that's the dude who I met at that trampoline park that one time who does productivity videos.
That's right. Okay.
So honestly, I think that did help though, meeting you in person.
Okay, so you had met me in person once before.
Because what conference was that? It was at like a YouTube conference.
ClamorCon. That was Palm Springs, California. But to give people context, because they don't know the story, I was coming to New York to do the audiobook for my book, and I was like, Sarah lives in New York. And kind of one of my things is I never think in terms of business. Like, it's not, I want to be on her podcast. It's more like, she's cool, I'm gonna be friends with her, and then the business reason comes afterwards, and often the business reason is like an incentive for me to go hang out with somebody. But I'm like, all right, what's the best way to reach out? So to everyone listening to this, I sent you essentially a cold email. There was no tweet or anything. I wasn't like commenting on your videos. It was just like, hey Sarah, I like your content. I know we met like for 5 minutes one time.
I was trying to get my backflip down, so I was in a very focused mode.
You did seem really focused.
I was like, who's this guy? Oh, I've watched you. Hey, what's up? Okay, let's get my backflip.
I remember talking more with John, and we were trying to do some weird parkour thing.
I'm sorry about that if I came off cold, but I was like so focused on my backflip.
You got it though.
I did.
You were pretty excited.
I did.
So I sent you a cold email, and it was basically just like, I'm coming to New York. It would be awesome to hang out. And if you want, I'd love to have you on my podcast. And then I also just dropped like, if you need a guest on your podcast, So I want you to like break it down, your reaction to each part. Like how did you think of each like ask, and were any of them like a turn off? Were any of them like, that's the reason I want to say yes?
Yeah. Usually with those, it's like, I'm always down with hanging, but it's an immediate yes if there's like mutual benefit.
Okay.
That sounds like so cold.
Yeah.
But like, one, I'm always down to like get coffee or get lunch with someone who is kind of on like similar goals, interests. I can tell that it's going to be a beneficial conversation. But it's a bonus when it's like, oh, we can create stuff together. We can do a collab podcast. Like, that's beneficial for us both, you know? And honestly, we're probably learning more about each other sitting down for 2 hours doing a podcast than we would over like munching on sandwiches or something, you know? So it's also a cool way. It's like, podcasting is a great networking tool, you know? So I think that's the biggest thing in terms of collaboration that I personally look for, is if there's that like creation part of it. Like, yes, I love coffee, but I can only have a certain amount of coffee a day. So if I'm going to spend these few hours like creating with someone, like that's really exciting to me. And it's also the whole thing of like, you're not someone who just started your YouTube channel.
Right.
You have experience. You're someone who I've personally watched. You know, I've watched you. I know who you are. I know your content. It's amazing. It's great. So like, of course. And so I think that's the biggest thing. So it's like, you don't need to tweet me to build a relationship,
right?
You know, Twitter is honestly helpful. It's how I keep up with my creator friends. But I think with cold emailing, it is helpful to have some form of communication or familiarity beforehand.
Okay.
Because my email, and I'm sure your email is probably
insane.
more of a mess than mine is. It is just a complete mess. So yeah, and I think like meeting you at ClamorCon and being like, oh, he's a real human. I've watched him on YouTube, and like, look, he's here now. That also helped, like, oh, I know his name. Like now that productivity dude on YouTube is associated with Thomas, you know?
Right.
So, so yeah, I mean, how do you filter? But I will say that how I met my boyfriend was a cold email.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it you emailing him or other way around?
It was him emailing me.
Really?
And I don't know what skate YouTube is. I didn't know anyone who was in that sphere. But he emailed me, and he didn't say how many subscribers he had. He didn't say anything, but he was like, here's my YouTube channel. I think you're cool. We should collaborate. And I just clicked on his YouTube channel. Like, honestly, sometimes it's like an automatic delete, but I will check out people's YouTube channel.
This is where I worry.
It depends on what kind of day it is, you know?
I couldn't remember if you rememred me or not, or I wasn't sure. I was like deliberating, do I put how many subscribers I have in the email or not? If I do, I look like a jerk or fool myself. If I don't, maybe she just ignores the email. This is like the dilemma you go through.
Yeah, I definitely remember. You're not giving yourself enough credit. But yeah, I think that is helpful to add why you're a credible person in the email. But it's funny, John didn't at all. Okay. His was just a random thing that, you know, maybe it was fate. But I clicked on his YouTube channel, and my first reaction was, oh, he has a lot of subscribers. Right. Of course I'll collab with him. And then we met in real life. I'm like, oh, you're kind of cute. And it's okay. So it's funny. Slide into those email DMs, guys. Yeah. It could be a cool collaboration, or it could be your relationship. Yeah. And you guys have been together for a while now. At least since a year and a half. Right? Yeah. Yep. The way that I knew of John is kind of weird. There was like this YouTube stat site called VidStatsX. It's like Social Blade, but different, I guess. And it would just every day show you like, here's all the creators who are like right around your subscriber number. And one day I was like, who's John Hill? He has the exact same amount of subscribers as I do. And then I was like, oh, this is like a really smiley skateboarder guy. I like skateboarding, so I'm going to start watching his stuff. That's awesome. And then I saw that he was coming to ClamorCon. I was like, nice. Yes. ClamorCon was fun. It was fun. I enjoy ClamorCon. Did you go to the second year or not? I didn't. I didn't either. This year was not a weird year, but I kind of just like swore off conferences for this year. Okay. because I went to so many conferences last year, and I did the handshaking, and I did the networking, and I did the speaking, that I was like, you know what, I need to go underground and just make stuff, because I'm kind of tired of talking about the same things.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of what this year is to me. It's just creating, figuring out my flow, starting new podcasts.
Yeah.
So I'll get around on the circuit again someday.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
One of my mottos is like, show up and have something to show.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you do some showing up, and then eventually you got to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Go underground and make some stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're all both really young. You're younger than me, so there's always time to
How
go
old are
to
you?
the next one. I'm 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just turned 27. I
Happy
keep
birthday.
thinking I'm 28 because I was
Why older?
I keep thinking, so I was at VidCon, and there are 2 other creators in standard who are both 28, and then everyone else is like 23 or 22 or 18. So I kept like grouping myself in with them, and then thinking I was 28.
Right.
But no, I got a year until then.
I know sometimes when you come across the classic like 17-year-old who has millions of subscribers on YouTube and like already has like a Lamborghini, you're just like, oh man, what am I doing with my life? Yeah. Like, have you seen, do you know who Emma Chamberlain is?
Mm-mm.
So she's like kind of in the David Dobrik area.
I don't even know who that is.
You don't know who David Dobrik is?
Huh.
Oh man, never mind then. So
there's so many big YouTubers.
Okay, do you know who Liza Koshy is?
Yes, I love Liza's stuff.
Okay,
absolutely.
Okay. So David Dobrik used to be Liza's boyfriend.
Okay.
Rest in peace, their relationship. That made me very sad that they broke up. So they were like a power couple, YouTube couple, but you know, they're very good at doing their own thing. So David does like 4-minute crazy vlogs that you never know, like basically what's scripted and what's real.
Yeah.
And it's just very quick, crazy comedy.
Gotcha.
And he uses his friends to do it a lot. So, yeah, so he basically has kind of a crew of people that are around there. They have a ton of subscribers, but this chick, Emma Chamberlain, kind of came on the spot less than a year ago and went from 0 to now over 2 million subscribers. She gets every single video now gets over 1 million views with like 190,000 likes.
Oh my gosh.
The engagement is off the charts, and she's just like a 17-year-old, like funny, relatable chick, I guess. I don't know. There's like not much to it, but she's funny.
Is it like Liza kind of content?
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of. But hers are even more basic. Like Liza, I feel like she sits down, comes up with a concept, and maybe comes up with jokes.
Right.
Emma is kind of just like shooting the shit type thing.
Okay.
And it's really interesting to watch these creators come up and get this crazy engagement that you never think is going to happen again.
Yeah.
There cannot be another Liza. There cannot be, but it's happening. So I guess all that rambling means that there's always room, guys. No matter what you're doing, there's always room. Don't be discouraged by a saturation of a platform. Maybe that means it's harder, but
the audience is always growing too, right?
Exactly.
And the thing that I always say, because everyone's like, oh, YouTube is harder because the content quality bar is higher. And it is. But the thing about new creators and new audience coming onto the scene every single day is you get new niches that could have never existed in the past. There's like a pen podcast that has like 200 episodes and has sponsors. It's about pens. Like before the internet existed, that would have never existed. It's like one nerdy guy who collects pens and has maybe like one pen pal or something.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, that's what freaking what's his face says, Tim Ferriss. I mean, Tim always talks about whenever, like, just go narrow.
Absolutely.
Go narrow as you can. And that's usually when you're going to find your 1,000 true fans. Yep. And once you have that, you're kind of unstoppable.
The best example I can think of now is this guy, Patrick. He's part of Standard, and he has a channel called Tier Zoo. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it is zoology videos talking about animals and, you know, biology and things like that, but through the lens of gaming and creating like fighting game style tier rankings. So like, what is the best bird? Like, what's the S tier bird? What's the A tier birds? F tier birds?
I mean, I would say that's
everything
narrow.
is video game jokes.
Yeah.
Like he'll do like, footage of like a hawk grabbing a fish out of a lake, and when it happens, like you get the Overwatch kill sound, and just like it's so good, but it's a niche that you would have never thought to do. And he refers to Outside as a game, and he refers to like Evolution as like the devs making patches. So it's so
there's always
hard
something
on the jokes, but it's great.
Yeah.
And people love it.
Exactly.
Or there's like the Primitive Technology channel where he just like films himself building a hut out of mud, and it's millions of views.
What's so great about this is you're saying so many channels that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
And you probably think are mainstream, and I'm saying so many channels that I think are mainstream. That just shows you how massive YouTube is, how massive the internet is. And it's cool from like just a consumer standpoint too, that like you don't have to pay $20 a month on these, you know, Netflixes and Hulus of the world to like find something you like.
I don't even know what mainstream means anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just learned about The Weeknd like a couple months ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you know who Drake is?
Yeah, I've heard of Drake. The only reason I know about The Weeknd is because someone on a Post Malone album review was like, he's just white The Weeknd. And I'm like, who's The Weeknd?
That's funny. Which I actually
false. I do not agree with that.
That is so false.
I've now listened to everything that both of them have put out, and I'm like, no, there's a lot of difference.
Post Malone is so diverse in his style and the types of songs he does. The Weeknd sounds the same on every single song.
Yeah, he kind of does. You know? I don't dislike it. I think he's really good, but
I tell this to everyone. I went to the same high school as Post Malone.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he was the grade below me.
Okay.
I need to step up my life, dude. He's like so on that other level, and he's younger than me.
He is killing it. Yeah.
But
I always like to bring up the example of Steve Carell. His career didn't launch until he was after 40.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How old was he in The Office?
Over 40.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm watching The Office for the third time through right now.
I've done the same thing with Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
We still haven't finished The Office, but we need to.
Oh, see, I'm reversed. I haven't finished Parks and Rec yet. For some reason, it just did not grab me the way The Office did. Season
1's awkward and not that great.
Okay.
Season 2 onward is I think better than The Office.
Okay.
The reason that we started watching Parks and Rec,
it's a
hefty statement.
Big claim.
It's a hefty statement. And this is going to start the fight in the comments. This is where we're going to get all the engagement.
Dun, dun, dun.
Office versus Parks and Rec fights. We were watching The Office. It's like a group of 4 friends. So it's hard to get everyone together. And one night, like one person didn't show up. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just put Parks and Rec on. It's like a second string thing, and then got hooked.
The Office is something that it needs to be your thing. It needs to be what you watch on the toilet. It needs to be the thing that you watch on the couch.
Just your thing.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long we've been going at this point.
We have been going 2 hours and 28 minutes.
I think that's a decent spot to wrap up. My shows are usually an hour. I don't know how long yours are usually. Yeah,
mine are like 50 minutes to an hour.
So okay.
I think we both got a lot of good stuff.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, and I think the stuff about, analyzing my little cold email was useful.
Yeah,
so
hopefully.
For people who don't maybe have a giant YouTube channel, or I guess what I've said on my podcast before is if you're going to cold email, you need to have some sort of like business reason why the other person would be like, yes, let's work together.
I do have one more thing to say about that.
Okay.
For a lot of people give the advice of like, offer up your time. Like, just tell them that you'll do whatever you can do. But I would go a step beyond, and that's work for that person to figure out how to use you. So the best thing that you can do is look at someone's content, look at someone's life, and see what they need done, and tell them specifically in the email, hey Sarah, this is my experience. Link your YouTube channel or whatever. It doesn't have to have a lot of views if you're good at what you're doing. I've noticed that you need clips for your YouTube, for your podcasts. Like, why don't you have clips yet? Let me spend 5 hours a week and I'll make 3 clips from your podcast, and I would just love a few minutes of your time every week in exchange for that. Do you know how easy of a yes that is?
Go make them.
Yeah, and that would be the step beyond. Is actually, and that's what some people have done with memes. Like, they'll just send me hilarious memes of my content, and instantly it's like follow, like, retweet. This is amazing, So that's 100%. That would be the perfect move.
Yeah,
so.
You're absolutely right. It's like, I appreciate the offer of time, but I don't have the time to direct that. So if you can show me that you already know what to do and you're going to solve a pain point I have, Yeah.
Exactly.
You're so in.
Exactly.
So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I'll look at this camera over here. If you want to find the show notes for this episode, oh my gosh, I don't know what episode number it is, so I need to go over to Notion and actually figure out which one it is. Luckily, I do have it figured out here. The Sara Dietschy interview is 222, so CIG podcast.
22 is my number.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
in all my basketball jerseys.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
CIGpodcast.com/222 for anything we mentioned in this episode. And you know what else you should do is you should go subscribe to Sara's podcast in Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you do yours on YouTube?
I do.
Cool.
I do.
So they're on YouTube, but get them on your podcast app.
Yeah.
It's like the best place to get them.
Exactly.
Last but not least, you can find our resources page with lots of cool gear and things to make your educational experience a better one over at collegeinfogeek.com/resources. So thank you for listening to this weird, hyper ambitious crossover episode where the camera's turned off. I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, we'll see how editing Sara is.
It's true. Sara's editing it, so we'll see how well she does. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I will see you in next week's episode. Stay cute.